Greetings. Welcome to our beautiful, powerful women show. My name is Ruth, and I'm excited to share with you another amazing guest. She is a life coach, an amazing mother, amazing wife, an amazing author. She's just fun, and full of wisdom. Okay, let me just go and share her with you. Her name is Bradshaw.
Hi,
Charity.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
I'm good. Charity, I know some of your stories, but it's always good to just share your stories to others. You know, there's a lot of people here, not here only in the Philippines, but around the world, let's start with, being a child of a divorced parents, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how does that actually, how does that feel? And how can you get out of that feeling?
Well, one of the things for me was my parents' divorce took place when I was an adult. I was 22, so barely an adult. But it still hurt nonetheless.
Right.
And also, I would say it might have even hurt more because I was really aware of what was going on. I could understand all the stories and all the things that were happening. And so that awareness was, a lot to carry.
Right.
I was the oldest, and I found out first, and they were sitting there going, don't tell your sisters. Well, of course I have to tell my sisters. I can't keep that from them.
Right.
But it affected me in several ways. Number one, I didn't ever want to be relying upon a man. Ever.
Wow.
Never going to be relying upon a man. And that was a dangerous
vow.
Place. Yes,
Yeah.
a dangerous vow, because there was something that God needed to work out in me. And whenever he did bring my husband to me, I was like, not even really interested. I was like, I don't need to be married. I've seen what marriage does to people, and I don't want that. And of course, then he just brought a really, really wonderful man, making it really hard to keep my vow of never going to be relying upon a man. And right before we got married was not when 9/11 happened, and that really obviously devastated. So right after 9/11 was when we basically started dating each other, and then we got married that following May. And what had happened at that time was, I was going to be transferring to Nashville with a company. I was working for Nordstrom, a wonderful company.
Yeah.
I was going to move up to Nashville with their new store. They stopped all growth, everything halted in America.
Wow.
But here I was already set to move, and my husband was going to move with me. And then I, with a college degree, with like all these number one in sales, posters behind my name, cannot find a job in Nashville to save my life.
Wow.
And my husband, with no degree and with like pizza delivery experience at that point, comes up and gets a job in 4 days. And it was a 2-year humbling learning experience that one man didn't equal all men.
Right.
That what my dad did wasn't going to be what every man did. And it was a humbling experience, because I went through building a company that didn't end up growing. I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I love building things, and this particular company never really got off the ground. And so I was working 3 jobs. I was cleaning apartments, hostessing, waiting tables, and then at one point I shifted to my own business, doing all this work, and it was just literally seemed like nowhere.
Right.
And through all of that, what God was showing me was that the relationship that I had with my husband was one that I could trust.
Wow.
And one that I could build on. And my husband is also a child of divorce.
Wow.
We've totaled up, I think, over 9 divorces between our 2 immediate family.
No.
That's not even counting like other extracurricular relationships.
Right.
And so we both entered into marriage very sober and very aware of what could happen. And in fact, we wrote a book about it. It's going to be coming out early next year. Very excited.
Yeah.
But our heart is for people, understanding that marriage is it's 2 people. It's 2 people coming together, and you have to put God in the middle of that, or it will not work. And you can't put God-sized expectations on another human being.
Right.
And without God, you're putting everything, all the pressure, all the provision, on each other. And it will not work. And I know you said I'm an amazing wife, but really I'm just an average person. I'm a normal person. I've got my quirks. And the reason I'm saying that is because I don't want anybody to feel like I'm anything different than them. I don't want you to feel like there's something magical about me or different, or that that I've got something that you can't have.
That's right.
Marriage,
That's right.
love, those kind of things are very attainable.
Right.
And they do come at a price. They come at a price of working and a lot of communication. Can we talk about islands and islands worth of forgiveness?
That's true. At one time, I told my husband, you know what? You have taught me really how to forgive. And you know what he said? You see, you have to thank me.
Yes. He's like, you're welcome.
You're welcome. So being, how did you get out of that? Like, feeling, because when you're in that situation, I feel like a lot of these kids would think that it's their fault when mom and dad separated, or what is it that was with you?
I didn't feel at fault because there were relationship issues.
Right.
And my dad, turns out he likes men. He doesn't like women.
Sure.
So that has nothing to do with me.
Right.
And so thankfully I didn't feel that guilt. What I did feel, and maybe this is speaking to some of you out there,
right.
I felt like the love that made me broke. So then I was like, am I broke? Because the love that created me didn't last or didn't make it. So then I was like, I felt like I lost part of my identity because what made me was no more.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So that was something that I had to work through, and I also had to work through trusting any other, because my dad was also a pastor. And so you have not only that he was my dad, but that he was also my pastor. So then I had trouble for years trusting pastors, especially male pastors, going, do you cheat on your wife? Do you do this?
And that's right.
And just all that, it took a long time to trust, and it was a process, and I'm thankful that not only God walked me through it, but my husband was able to walk me through it, and not projecting those things onto my kids, and not making that stuff trickle down into their lives, and stopping that generational curse of broken and fragmented relationships.
So how do you encourage then, like young generations right now to really just come out of whatever it is? It's not really what their parents are about, but it's who they really are. I mean, you're so good in talking about purposes and how to get out of there, and you having your tools on your own to be. Please.
Well, I think one of the biggest things that it can get very easy to be lost in your circumstances, and to dwell and be surrounded by your circumstances, and it's when you begin to live outside of your own pain and pursue things outside of your own pain. There's always somebody in more pain than you, and not that it's a contest, but it's about finding and serving and giving of yourself to people that helps literally dig you out of that pain, sort of like a spiraling that you do when you're in, like I didn't know at the time I was depressed. I had no idea what depression was. I went through 6 weeks of not sleeping and just being like, my mind was so tired, and that's not a time to make decisions. That's a time to start getting yourself help, getting yourself healed. I mean, I'm a big proponent of getting counseling, Christian counseling, and also it's not just about adding a bunch of stuff, it's also about taking out some of the negative stuff. I was very conscious that the music I was listening to was affecting my mood, and my mood wanted to be fed that negativity and that sadness, and it wanted that
misery.
music. Yes, misery loves company, and that sadness wanted that music, and I had to say, for the sake of my soul, for the sake of my mindset, I need to turn the music off and turn on worship music, and you need to be involved in your church. And if you don't have a local church, you need to get with Ruth. She knows everybody here. Find a local church. Number one, that can pour into you, but that you can then in turn pour of yourself and give of yourself. Because God does say it is more blessed to give than receive. And that's blessing. It is more blessed to give. And we often think that it's just pouring out, but really in that position of giving of yourself is when you feel the most full, the most whole.
The joy.
Yes, the joy.
It just overflows. So when you had nothing, and then of course, all your pride has to go crushed, right? How did you start all over? How did that look like?
Well, I would say that I'm a person that has been reinvented several times.
Wow. 9 lives like the cats.
Well, I just don't think that there's ever a time when we're done growing.
That's true.
I'm a firm believer in learning. That's why I write books, because books have changed my life, and learning has changed my life. It's changed my mind, my thinking, and if you can change your mind, you can change just about everything about yourself, which is pretty powerful. And so I find that if I know some place that I want to go, in my life, whether it's a health goal, whether it's a business goal, whether it's just a learning goal, I learn about it. I literally just start absorbing information, like social media. I mean, you know now so much more about social media than you did a year ago. Maybe you didn't want to know it all, but now you do. But it's that learning, and so now you know how to use that tool to reach the people here in the Philippines. What a powerful tool. And so it's about learning in those things and around those things where you want to go. And a lot of us are one habit away from whatever we want. One habit. If we just change something, we can attain what we actually want.
That's a very good. That's a very good point. When a person can always feel like they're stuck somewhere. Mm-hmm. So how would you, no, I can't. I just can't. I mean, how are you going to go and tell this person, you know what, you can?
You can do anything you think you can.
Thank you. But
it's not a freebie. It's not a freebie. You can do anything you think you can. Mm-hmm. And I have experienced that in my life. I've watched it happen in friends' lives. And it's often when we give up on ourselves or give up on our ability to change, that's when we're saying, this is as far as I'm going to get.
Right.
Like I've literally had conversations with people going, so what do you think your 5-year plan is? Or what's life going to look like next year? And they're like, I don't know. Yeah. And I'm like, do you not think, I lie awake thinking about this. Like, what is next year going to be like? What is the year after that going to be like? Because I just love to see things expand and to grow and to believe that today is your best day that it's ever going to be. That's a sad way to live. To me, today is always the worst day of my life. It's only going to get better, and it really, and I'm not saying that today's a bad day. Mm-hmm. I just believe tomorrow's going to always be better because I'm still investing in myself. I'm investing in my friends. I'm investing in my community. Mm-hmm. I'm pouring out. I'm giving of my gifts. I'm giving of myself. Mm-hmm. And in exchange, I'm willing to receive those. Being here, Ruth, this has been such a treat. Thank you so much for inviting me here. Even just being in this hotel and in this beautiful city has been just, I'm a mom. I work from home. I'm covered in kids and laundry. You know what I mean? I'm a real person. And then you think, how can a person like that be up on stage? Or, you think a person on stage never does laundry. It's like, I do laundry about 5 days a week, I do dishes almost every day. I cook meals. I'm a short order cook. I'm a real person. I'm a real mom. And then I live real life. And most days I'm in workout clothes with my hair in a ponytail and no makeup on because I'm getting stuff done.
Right. Yeah.
And if that's you, if you feel like you are just like doing the daily grind and you don't know there's anything else, you're one habit away. What is that habit? Is it taking better care of yourself? Is it enrolling in a class? Is it going to a conference? Is it being around positive people? Sometimes editing your friends list is the best thing you can do for your future. If you're surrounded by people that are constantly like, no, stay here. It's comfortable right here. Mm-hmm. Even people that that aren't negative, but they're just like, oh, this feels good, right? Uh-huh. I always say that comfort zones are where dreams go to die.
I know. Yep.
If it's comfortable, it's your enemy.
That's right.
It really is. It's the enemy of your future, the enemy of your destiny. Right. And a lot of us get too comfortable. Mm-hmm. The daily routine is comfortable for you. Getting up, doing the same thing is comfortable. Of course it's comfortable. Change is what causes us to experience a little bit of pain. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you, when you reframe pain, and I mean positive, like growth pain, like when you're doing those, curls or your Tai Chi or whatever it is that you're doing, when you're doing your workouts, there is some physical pain involved. When you're doing your planks or those kind of things. But when you learn what that pain is producing in your life, it's when you begin to appreciate the pain and not always push it away. We want to push away pain, but pain is one of the greatest instigators of change in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. How about...
We can stop now, right?
There's just so much.
Let's take an offering.
How about... Let's talk about this young adult.
Yeah.
Okay, because you 22 and all of a sudden your life was completely berserk. Mm-hmm. Looking back, and then fast forwarding your life, what is the main thing that you would want to take out of that and give it to the young adults right now? Because there's a lot of people that really do not know their identity. Mm-hmm. Even if they're young adults, they think that they're so high and mighty already. I know it all, and I'll just bury myself finding what kind of career I need to take. But honestly, the simplest thing that they have to know is what?
I would say for me, purpose for sure. But I think backing up a step from that, if I could go back and tell myself anything at 22 years old, number one, it'd be stop being so hard on yourself. I was super, super critical, hypercritical of myself, and also
Wow.
hypercritical of others. And do you know what that does when you're trying to, be a Christian and be Jesus? When you're a critical person, it's not attractive. Nobody wants to be around it, right? It's not attractive. Nobody wants to be around it, right? It was a great repellent.
That's right.
But the more now, as an adult, that I could say I appreciate what my body has done for me. I've produced 4 babies.
Wow.
Thank you, body.
Mm-hmm.
I just walked all over these places and these countries, and thank you, body, for taking me there. I used to be so hard on myself. I used to compare myself to other people. And one of the things I'm talking about at the conference is comparison is the thief of joy. That's Theodore Roosevelt said that. It's the thief of joy. When we sit there and compare our lives or compare ourselves, our physical, our financial, our emotional, our relational, our social status to anybody else, it will always cause you to feel less.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. You're right.
And I see so many people out there living less life than they actually would if they stopped comparing.
Wow.
Absolutely. So that's what I would just say, you know what? Relax. You have a lot to be thankful for.
Right.
And begin focusing on that, and you'll find that even though nothing may change, everything has changed.
Wow. Wow. So wow.
Let it
So
sink in, Ruth. Let it sink in.
I mean, wow, I don't even know what to say next. Let's talk about this she lids.
Okay.
What is that? Why did you write that?
I'm so glad you asked that question.
I'm so excited. I mean, I cried when I read that, but why did you? Yeah, tell me.
So, a little bit about this book was I was taking a leadership class, and this was a book, it was based on a book written by a very well-known, I'm not going to name him, author, who is very much the top name in writing about leadership. And I was reading the book, and it was all he, him, his, and I'm like, and this was the 10th anniversary edition. You would think in 10 years
It's the change.
that they could have evolved at least into gender-neutral pronouns. I mean, like, where is the brain? And I'm speaking, if you're listening out there, leadership writer, I'm talking to you. It inspired me to write this book. I wrote this book in a month.
Wow.
Because it came from such a fierce place inside of me of going, I am the daughter of Joan Hunter. I'm the granddaughter of Frances Hunter. I've got 3 sisters who are all very, very powerful. I've got 3 daughters. And how am I supposed to say that a leadership book having all masculine pronouns is something that I want them to read?
Right.
I'm sorry, but no. I love male leadership. I love female leadership. To me, they are not exclusive.
Right.
We are both called to lead.
Right.
And we are both called to serve in the same way. So this book, She Leads, I just was like, it's got to be pink, it's got to be a girl, and we need to know about what women have done and are doing. And so my heart with this was really, I asked a lot of my friends, my female friends, I asked my family, I was like, tell me 5 female leaders.
Right.
And they were stumped. They couldn't name them. And, honestly, I probably couldn't name them either.
Right.
And I was like, it's not right that we don't know. It's not right. And so I wrote this book with the intention of, number 1, helping women gain some footing in their own leadership.
That's true.
Number 2, awareness. I think knowing what other people have done, how they've turned their ordinary lives into extraordinary lives, that is empowering. To the person who said, I could never, well, let me show you someone who did. And I included different ethnicities, different financial backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, different physical abilities.
Absolutely.
Just so that there was no room for an excuse.
Right.
Well, I don't have an education. Well, I'm not rich enough. Well, I'm handicapped, or I'm this color or that color. It doesn't matter. I've got somebody in here who's done it, who's done something.
Right.
I've got people in here who are younger than me.
Right.
That are still doing amazing things. And I think, I just got tired. I hope this is not blasphemous to anybody, but I'm like, Esther is not the only person we can learn from.
Right.
She's not. I mean, she's in the book and she's great, but I think when it comes to women, everyone wants to take us to women in the Bible. And I'm like, wow, that's fine. And while they're great, there are other women out there doing amazing things
Blessed by
with
the
their
Lord.
ordinary lives. These are normal people. People that get up, put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. deciding to change a habit, to change something, and then changing lives.
What makes you feel like you are a very strong woman?
You know, the thing that makes me feel the strongest is doing things that I think are hard. Just to be honest, coming here by myself was probably one of the hardest things that I've done recently. And it may not be a hard thing to you, and it may not be a hard thing to you. But for me, coming to a country I've never been, to a person who I don't know, for an event I'm not sure about, you know, and to a place where, I mean, is the food going to have eyeballs looking back at me with bones? I don't know.
It's so good.
You know? So I was nervous. I was nervous about the flight. You know, my husband's sitting there going, oh, look, you're flying over water the whole way. I'm like, I don't need to know that. It stressed me out. But I'm telling you, it's doing things that are hard that makes me feel strong. Nobody makes me feel strong like me. When I conquer fears, when I conquer bad habits, and I'm telling you, all this is with partnership with God, because without it, we can't do anything. So I'm not trying to say it's me by myself, but it's me making the decisions to agree with God for my purpose.
That's right.
To agree with Him that Philippines is where I'm supposed to be right now.
Right.
You know, I'm waving at my kids, my husband, tell them I'll see you later, in faith that I will see them later.
Amen.
You know, that's something that was hard for me coming over here. Finishing my first book, that was hard. It's a marathon.
Right.
But it's when you do it and when you complete it, you feel invincible. You're like, I'm ready to come back next year. I'm ready to do another book. Those kinds of things, because you're like, I've done it. I've done it, and I can tell myself, you did this. And you know what? Let me just encourage you with this. The first assignment that God gives you is not going to be, I need you to take over the world. The first one's going to be, can you pick up the trash? Can you put the cart back at the grocery store? Can you smile at your boss? Whatever it is, it's going to start with something small. And then as you build in doing those little bitty steps of hard things for you, then the trust, then the growth happens. And you feel stronger. That's the only person we're talking about here when you talk about feel strong. I look at you and I'm like, you're like one of the strongest people that I know. And you're like, oh my gosh, me. I'm like, yes. But that's how it is. I mean, we tend to, you know, deflect anybody calling us strong or wanting to be called strong. And even it's like beautiful, powerful. I'm like, whoa, that's kind of a, should I wear a sash? You know, I don't know. But I mean, it's about embracing the faith that it has taken, and celebrating, to me being strong is celebrating the faith it's taken to do the hard things in my life. Having children. I mean, what else? Nothing takes more faith than having children.
That's
strong,
right, every day.
Every day.
I have a question. This is the last question. Was that, how did you own your faith? Because, you know, your grandma, your mom, you know, how did you actually own your faith?
I would say whenever I started college was when I realized that my faith was no longer my parents' faith. That God does not have grandchildren. He only has children. I'm not getting anywhere because of my parents' faith or because of my grandparents' faith or because how they feel about God. It's going to only be because of how I feel about God and my relationship with Him. And even in, like, you know, the differing, you know, flavors of what we participate in, whether, you know, there's people that go into like flags and, you know, then there's people that are more somber, and it's like, my faith with God has been something that, like, I'm a feet on the ground kind of person. You know, I deal with reality. I don't live in the supernatural, you know. I think life itself is supernatural. You know, and I think being able to speak to people who don't necessarily know God is an important thing. To be able to speak in real world language, not some kind of coded Christian language that nobody can understand. And I think for me, once I was in college, when I realized nobody's going to make me go to church, nobody's going to make me pray, nobody's going to make me read my Bible, that it was my choice, and honestly, even at that point, I didn't necessarily go, well, that's it, I'm a Bible thump and pray, and you'll find me in my prayer closet all the time. No, that's when I began realizing that it wasn't their faith, it was mine. And then as I got married and as I worked through a lot of the issues from my parents' divorce, was when I realized, and then I'll tell you, having children really does, you will find out what you believe in when you have them, because in the beginning it's keeping them alive, you know, feeding, clothing, diapering, and then once they get bigger, you're like, it's their soul that I'm actually nurturing here. The body is just a byproduct. You know, I can feed anybody, but man, nurturing a soul and shaping a soul, that's something that takes daily dependence upon God speaking to you,
Source.
upon Him shaping you, because nothing will point out your own issues like your children. You know, you'll know exactly where you stand based on what your children are pushing you through. I said pushing, that's totally true. Putting you through and pushing you through. And I think that it's just been more of a gradual thing, kind of like vegetables in a weird way. When I was younger, I didn't like vegetables. And as I've gotten older, I've decided I'm going to try more, and I'm discovering I like a lot more. And those are things that initially taste bitter, but then the more you become accustomed to that taste, you're like, these actually make me feel really good.
Better.
And sometimes at first, building that relationship with God, you're like, oh, this is just kind of like work. But then you realize you crave it, you need it, you want it, and it actually makes you stronger, it makes you better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what this charity Bradshaw lead a church? What do you?
I'm happily not a pastor.
So you just basically you're a wife right now. You're a mom.
I'm
you're
an
author and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I coach authors. I coach.
Wow.
Well, I should say I coach people who want to become an author, because a lot of people have a story inside of them, and they feel like, oh, I want to write a book, or I need to write a book, or God's telling me to write a book, and it's like been a long time since school, and they don't remember how to do it. But I actually coach people through the writing process. It's a 12-week class that I offer. And then also, and it's offered online, so you can be in the Philippines. I've got clients all over the world, actually, from Canada all the way to the UK and beyond, and things like that. And that's it's something I'm very passionate about, because what I have found when we write is that is another layer and another level of healing that God gives us. He allows us to reorganize different pains from our past and actually see His hand through things. And also, I'm not only people that are telling their story, but people who have a message or a platform. You know, maybe empowering women is your platform, and you've got things that God has deposited in you, and it's about getting that message out. And just watching, there's something so amazing about knowing that my books will be here after I'm gone. My kids, they're my first audience. Whenever I write things, I write to my kids, and of course they're for grown kids. But I sit there and I go, they will have my heart, they will have my words, they'll have my values long after I'm gone. And so will my grandkids.
Legacy.
Yes, legacy. And that's one of the things I try to get people to appreciate and step into, is putting their voice on paper. Because a lot of people, and maybe even here in the Philippines you might find this, people live in obscurity. They live in just like I blend in kind of a way. And when you say I'm going to write a book, it's like, I'm going to step out of the obscurity. And it's like, whoa, you know.
Just to be transparent is really so hard.
Absolutely. And the second step that I do is I help people actually self-publish the books. So I go through and I help with the production of the cover, and do the editing, all that kind of stuff. But I love that, because I really believe that whatever people, if it's worth writing, it's worth producing in excellence.
Let's close with this charity. You know, a lot of people do not really know what their purposes are. You know, it's just hard to, you know, if you don't really do, it's just hard to go and find your purpose in life. I know my purpose in life because I just love God so much. But there are just basically people that would want to understand that in a very simple way of understanding. So please tell our audience, how do you actually understand your purpose?
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of things to think about. Number one, who does your heart burn for? That's one of the biggest things. When you're talking about purpose, and it's what do you want to do? What kind of difference do you want to make? What do you want to change? Who do you see? I often find that people have maybe a person that reflects a previous version of them. Maybe somebody who's in the struggle that they were once in. And so maybe that's you. Maybe you're thinking about when I was younger, maybe I didn't have food. And now you feel compelled to maybe help figure out how to feed kids that maybe were in the same situation. A lot of times I think our purpose is tied into what we have been through or what God has brought us through in some sort of way. So I always say, who does your heart burn for? And then what one step today can you do about it? And then ask yourself that question the next day. The next day and the next day, because God's not gonna say, today I need you to leap from the Philippines over to Japan and then over to no, He's not gonna ask you to take big giant steps. It's what's the next step, and again, it's that habit, changing a habit. Purpose is not some elusive thing. I think that we try to make it some like that purpose has to be glamorous or
Right.
big or dramatic. And really, to me, it's just a mindset of how you live your daily life. You can be a mom full of purpose. You can be a business owner full of purpose. You can be a minister full of purpose. You can be a grocery store bagger full of purpose. It's how you see what you're doing and who you're doing it for. So I'd encourage you, take those steps.